They built massive stone temples before they even learned how to farm crops. This fact destroys everything we thought we knew about the dawn of human civilization. Imagine standing in a dusty plain in modern-day Turkey. The sun beats down on your neck as you brush away layers of dirt. You aren't just finding rocks. You are unearthing secrets that were buried by choice. For thousands of years, this site sat silent beneath the earth. It was hidden from the eyes of every passing tribe and empire. But when archaeologists finally broke through the surface, they saw something impossible. They found massive T-shaped limestone pillars carved with intricate scenes of predators and wild beasts. These weren't just stones, they were a monumental statement of power and belief. If humans were simple hunter-gatherers who actually engineered these precise limestone pillars. This is the question that keeps archaeologists awake at night. We used to believe that people first settled down into farms, then they built houses. Only after they became stable did they start building grand monuments. Göbekli Tepe flips this timeline completely upside down. These stones were erected over 12,000 years ago. At that time, humans had no pottery. They didn't have metal tools. They barely had a permanent way to feed a large group of people. Yet they moved massive blocks weighing tons across the landscape. They carved precise symbols into the stone with surgical precision. Why did they choose this specific spot? The site isn't just a random collection of stones. It is a masterpiece of deliberate design. Each pillar stands like a silent sentinel in a sacred circle. Some pillars are taller than human height. They are decorated with lions, scorpions, and foxes. These aren't just decorations, they are symbols of a complex mythology. Think about the organization required to move these stones. You need a leader to give orders. You need hundreds of people working in unison. You need a shared belief system that motivates them to work for months, maybe years. This suggests a social hierarchy we never thought existed so early. These weren't just roaming bands of foragers. They were an organized society with a deep spiritual purpose. But there is something even more unsettling about the site. Pillars aren't just standing in the ground, they are part of a deliberate arrangement. Some researchers believe the site was intentionally buried by its creators. They didn't just abandon it. They covered it in soil and earth as if hiding it from time itself. Why would an ancient culture bury their greatest masterpiece? Perhaps they were protecting it. Or perhaps it served a purpose that is no longer relevant to our world. This intentional burial suggests a deep understanding of the passage of time. They knew how to preserve something for the future, or perhaps for someone else. Every time we dig deeper, we find more evidence of this strange preparation. Look closely at the carvings on the stone faces. You see stylized human figures holding objects that look like weapons or tools. These aren't random scratches in the dirt, they are intentional icons. Some experts believe these images represent a lost pantheon of gods. The sheer sophistication of the art suggests an advanced cultural life. How could a group with no permanent homes create such complex symbols? It challenges our definition of what it means to be primitive. We see a culture that was spiritually advanced even if they were technologically simple. They didn't need wheels or bronze to build something magnificent. They had faith, and they had the skill to carve it into stone. Now consider the timeline we are taught in school. It says civilization began with agriculture around 9000 BC. Göbekli Tepe pushes that date back much further. It suggests that religion might have been the spark for settlement. Perhaps people gathered here first because of their faith. They built this sanctuary as a pilgrimage site. Only after they gathered and worshipped did they start to domesticate plants and animals. The temple didn't follow the city followed the temple. This shift in perspective changes everything about our origin story. It means our ancestors were far more complex than we ever imagined. They weren't just surviving day, they were dreaming of something bigger than their next meal. They were building monuments to outlast their own lives. Every stone represents 1,000 hours of labor and heavy lifting. Each carving is a story told in limestone. The sheer scale of the site suggests it was a hub for thousands of people. Imagine the noise of voices and the sound of stone hitting stone. This wasn't a lonely outpost, it was a bustling center of spiritual activity, and yet they vanished from this specific location. They left the site and moved on, leaving their stones behind to be buried by the wind and sand. Why did they leave? Some say the soil became too hard for farming. Others believe a shift in climate forced them away. But the fact remains that they chose to bury it. This act of preservation is like a time capsule left for us to find. It feels almost intentional, as if they knew we would one day dig it up. They were hiding a truth from the average passerby. They wanted this place to remain sacred and untouched by those who didn't understand its meaning. Every year, more layers are stripped away. We find more carvings that shouldn't exist in that era. The limestone is thick and heavy. To move these blocks required massive manpower or advanced knowledge of physics. Some theories suggest they used sleds and rollers made from wood. Others looked toward the very earth itself as a tool for movement. Regardless of how they moved it, the precision remains haunting. The joints between stones are tight. The carvings follow consistent patterns across different pillars. This indicates a school of artisans who studied and practiced their craft. They weren't just carving what they saw, they were following a tradition passed down through generations. Recent carbon dating has confirmed the shocking age of these structures. We are looking at a site that predates the pyramids by thousands of years. It predates every known civilization with complex writing systems. This means there was a period of human history we don't fully understand. There was a time when people lived in high complexity without modern technology. They had their own way of communicating, likely through these very symbols. We are only beginning to decode what those images actually mean, and think about the social structure required for such an undertaking. You cannot build something this large alone. It requires a hierarchy. It requires specialized roles. Some were the architects who planned the layout, others were the masons who shaped the stone. Others were the artists who etched the sacred symbols into the surface. This implies a stable society with enough surplus time to dedicate to monumental construction. If they were just wandering foragers, where did the time come from? They had to have a way to feed these workers for months at a time. Perhaps they weren't fully nomadic yet, but they were organized. They knew how to manage resources and people on a massive scale. The mystery deepens when we look at the animal carvings. The lions and boars are not just any animals, they are depicted with specific attributes. Some scholars believe these represent different clans or tribes. Each tribe might have had its own totem, carved into the stone to mark their territory in a spiritual sense. This would make Göbekli Tepe a grand assembly of nations. It was a place where different groups came together to unite under one faith. The scale suggests it wasn't just for a small village. It was meant for an entire region. Why did they bury it? There is a theory that the site served as a ritual center during times of peace, but it had to be hidden during times of war. By burying it, they protected the sacred from desecration. Or perhaps they were preparing for a great change in the world. They knew their way of life was ending. They wanted to preserve the essence of their culture before it vanished into the dust. When we look at these stones today, we are looking at a desperate act of preservation. It is a message sent through time, waiting for us to find it. The sheer scale of the site makes it one of the largest structures from its era. It covers over 100 acres of land. This isn't just a small shrine, it's a massive complex. Some parts were designed with sophisticated drainage systems. They understood how to manage water and prevent erosion. These are engineering skills that we thought only thousands of years later. How did they know these techniques? Did they have teachers? Was there a lineage of knowledge that survived for centuries before the site was covered? Every time we find a new drainage pipe or a reinforced joint, our timeline cracks further. We are forced to reevaluate what it means to be primitive. We often view our ancestors as less intelligent than us because they lacked our tools. Göbekli Tepe proves that's not true. They had a different kind of sophistication. They understood geometry and stoneworking perfectly well. They just didn't need the same tools we use today. Their intelligence was geared toward the spiritual and the communal. They were master craftsmen who could turn a block of limestone into a masterpiece of storytelling. The carvings also show us what they feared. The predators on the stones weren't just animals, they were symbols of power in nature. By carving them, perhaps they were attempting to channel that power or seek protection from it. It was a way to negotiate with the dangerous world around them. They lived in a landscape full of wild beasts and unpredictable elements. This site was their fortress of faith. It gave them a sense of permanence in an uncertain world. As we dig deeper, we find more evidence of ritual use. We find stone bowls and tools for grinding grains or preparing offerings. These items were placed intentionally near the pillars. They weren't just buildings, they were active centers of community life. People gathered here to share food, tell stories, and perform rituals that linked them to their ancestors. It was a hub of human experience that has been silent for nearly 10,000 years. The transition from these stones to what we call civilization is the biggest mystery. Why did they stop building like this? Why did they move toward farming and pottery as our primary markers of progress? Maybe it wasn't a choice, but a shift in the environment. Perhaps the climate changed, making their way of life impossible. Or perhaps they simply moved on to a different kind of complexity that we are only just beginning to understand. The stones remain, however, as a testament to what came before. We have to ask if there was something else here. Something so important that it had to be hidden from the world for millennia. Some believe the site held secrets about astronomy or celestial alignments. If you look at some of the pillars, they seem to align with specific stars. They may have been a way to track time or predict seasons before the invention of calendars. They were mapping the heavens onto the earth. Every stone was a page in a book that we are only just starting to read. And the impact on modern archaeology is profound. We can no longer say that civilization began with the plow. It started with the temple. It started with the need for meaning and community. These people were not